All right, well, a little more clarity from Pete Carroll today, and we found out a little bit more about the cornerback situation. Let's face it, that's sort of the giant in the room, the elephant in the room that no one really wants to talk about. What is going to happen with these guys? Well, we now know. Richard Sherman's got his hearing on December the 14th. Brandon Browner is going to start his suspension now this week. He's out for the regular season, should be back for the postseason. And I thought, and we talked about it on the show today too, that part of this might be they wanted to be sure Walter Thurmond, who, if you remember last year, was a starter,
right,
was ready to come back in and start, which I'm going to assume he is. Obviously, they announced him as the starter today.
Yeah, I mean, last year, if not for injury, you would have seen Trufant on one side and Walter Thurmond on the other side. And because of injury, you saw Browner and Sherman, and we know what happened with that. But Thurmond gets to start, and he gets a chance to really prove what it was that Pete Carroll and John Schneider saw in him. I think there are a lot of people that aren't familiar with what he looks like out there on the field. We've gotten so used to seeing Browner and Sherman. He's not that size. He's a different kind of guy. He played the slot last week. We saw him on the slot receiver last week. So, I think part of their deliberate pace with him was getting him into condition. He didn't have training camp. He was working his way back. So you hope there's not a big drop-off. Now, you look at last week, and Browner had a really tough game.
He did.
But he's still a guy that has a presence. He's still a guy that can cause problems at the line. So you hope Thurmond can kind of just make it seamless like we've seen other guys, just like they did. Just like when they stepped in, it was seamless.
Yeah. And I think in the case of Thurmond, you got a reason to believe that, to think that. I mean, drafted by this group of guys that they believed in what they saw in him. It wasn't a guy that they inherited. Had earned the starting job. And look, you're going up against Arizona in this week, kind of a one-trick pony in a sense. If you're going to get beat by John Stelton in the passing game, it's going to be Larry Fitzgerald.
Right.
I bet you we'll see the Seahawks do more of, which they normally didn't do when they had Browner on one side and Sherman was on the other, was to leave them on one side or the other. My hunch is you have Sherman on Larry Fitzgerald the entire game.
Think he just follows him?
Yeah, I think he just follows him. You let Thurmond kind of just get used to, and I'm with you. I mean, it's just sort of get used to playing again is all. Get a game in. I think the real big concern is if you lose Sherman, then you're down two corners.
Right.
And you're going to have to bring in someone who's not a starter, who you ever projected as a starter. But, maybe a little bit of luck for the Seahawks in that Thurmond was able to get healthy. He's a guy that I liked anyway, a guy that was starting last year. So should be easier for him this week. I think it might be tougher in the weeks to come, though.
Yeah, and this is a nice ramp-up team for him because if you look at the Cardinals, they are at bottom of the barrel in just about every offensive category, including points scored, where they're dead last in the league. They're one of the worst passing teams, rushing teams. Offensively, this is a team that is not a huge threat. Shouldn't be a huge threat at CenturyLink with the 12th man going. This should be a good day, a good game to try out Walter Thurmond.
Hey, the one thing they haven't been getting is takeaways. So, Walter, 2 interceptions, please. Make it 2.